Welcome to Fegan and Finch, the podcast where we talk everything football related. I'm Alex Finch.
And I'm Ryan Fegan. Let's talk football.
So for this week's episode, I'm thinking a very sore subject is worth bringing to light. The tragedy of 2008, the summer England didn't get to the Euros. What do you think?
Ooh, interesting topic. I'm down for that one, Fincho. I'm down for that, mate.
So let's set the background. So England didn't get to the Euros. Steve McClaren was riddled with a nickname, the Wally and the Brolly, and we all had to watch the football tournament without England in it. All of this when England had probably the best generation of all time. Well, definitely the best generation of our lifetimes. And in that year, 2008, we had two of our club sides, Chelsea and United, get to the Champions League final with 10 English players starting. So 10 English players started in the best club competition in the world, but England couldn't qualify for the Euros. What a tragedy.
Mental, mate. Absolutely disgusting when you think about it.
Yeah, it's awful. So I think we should explore it, see what went wrong. Yeah. Was it the players? Why were these players, who were arguably the best in the world in their positions at their clubs, misdirected at international level? Was it McClaren's fault, the formation? And I think we should choose a starting lineup for that 2006-2008 period, who we would have chosen if players were fit.
Perfect. Let's get right into it, mate.
So, do you want me to take it from the beginning, June 2006?
You take it away, my friend. You take it away.
Okay, so the qualifiers started in 2006 following the World Cup, where we were knocked out by Portugal in penalties. The first proper World Cup I watched. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that was... it was the first World Cup I watched. First sort of football tournament I watched was Euro 2004.
So that tournament, 2006, Portugal quarterfinals. Carragher missed that penalty. Beckham stepped down as captain. And then after that, he got given a group for the qualifiers for the Euros in 2008. And on paper, didn't seem a tough group. We had Croatia, Russia, Israel, Macedonia, and Estonia. So all the Onias. But on paper, looking at those countries, when I look at them, probably only Croatia where you think England could slip up, but they're still probably big favourites.
Russia had their fair bit of talent. Let's be fair to them. They had their fair bit of talent.
Yeah, they had Pavlyuchenko, Arshavin,
Yuri Zirkov.
Yeah, so some very good players, and obviously they went on Euros 2008 to get to the semi-final, so they were a good team. But
and lost to eventual winners.
Yeah, of course. And you've got to remember that back in those days, two teams qualified, or guaranteed qualification from each group, as the Euro qualifying groups was a little bit different then. So Russia and Croatia got the first and second places, and we came third. And we finished
third.
Joint on points with Israel, so it showed how poor we were.
Yeah. I mean, Israel, you think, who have Israel really got? They've only got really two players that come to mind. Tal Ben-Aim, just because he was a Chelsea player. He was not a very good Chelsea player at that. He went to Portsmouth and done nothing in his career. And the other one who was a decent player, Yossi Ben-Ayoun, who was really the standout player for that Israel team. Other than that, I can't think of any other Israeli players since then who have gone to do anything.
No, nothing springs to mind. But Yossi Ben-Ayoun, I think he was their captain, wasn't he?
He scored a few goals in that qualifiers, I remember.
At West Ham, he's an incredible player. He had good spells at Liverpool and Arsenal alone as well.
Chelsea.
And Chelsea, of course.
Chelsea, yeah.
So the qualification started off well. We got 2 wins, and then came a 0-0 draw at home with Macedonia. Well, basically at home. We were at Old Trafford because Wembley wasn't quite ready at that point. And then we lost 2-0 away to Croatia. Eduardo, before he got that injury, he scored. He could have been a wonderful striker without that injury. Was it Martin Taylor who injured him?
It was someone from Birmingham. I think it was. His last name was Taylor. Disgusting. Absolutely hideous tackle, to be fair. Eduardo really was not the same since.
No, he wasn't. And then
really weren't.
During that 2-0 away loss to Croatia, it was probably famous for Gary Neville putting a back pass back to Robinson and hit a little divot.
Oh, the back pass.
Yeah. Robinson went to clear, and then he watched in agony as the ball just rolled in.
Oh, mate. That is so sickening to watch as an England fan back in the day.
That was the beginning of England.
I've never really saw anything like that, just to be honest with you. I never saw anything like that.
that was the beginning of the end for Paul Robertson as well in his England career.
Yeah, all about that.
I'm pretty sure I remember paying to watch that game. I think it was on. I think Santana Sports got the rights for like a few England games.
To watch England.
And I'm pretty sure I had to pay to watch England on Santana Sports. I think they now went bankrupt. Well, the England business went bankrupt. I think they're still going in Ireland. But yeah, and so going back to that qualification, we then drew 0-0 away to Israel. So another poor result. Then
that's a really poor result.
Then we did go on a nice little winning run, won the next 5, with the biggest highlight being David Nugent becoming that one cat wonder, the biggest highlight of his career. 92nd minute against Andorra. I think he can just kneed it in. Wonderful goal.
Absolute quality player, mate. David Nugent.
I didn't really like him because he used to always score against my team, Ipswich. When he was at Preston, he used to always get a goal against Ipswich. But yeah, so going back to the qualification, so we got 5 wins, but then when it really matters, the penultimate game.
The last two games where we really slipped up.
Penultimate game, Russia. We lost 2-1, late 2007. Roman Pavlyuchenko, he got 2 goals.
What a player.
And when you think about that year, though, Russia did have quite a good team, because I think Zenit won the UEFA Cup in 2008.
Yeah.
So it wasn't awful that we lost to Russia, but with the team we had, considering the players were probably the best in the world in their position.
The team that we had that day. Let's have a little run through it.
Well, should we do that in a little bit? Let's just finish off the qualification.
Go for it. Apologies.
Then we can actually discuss why they didn't make it. So, it finished off that qualification with 3-2 loss with Croatia. Scott Carson fumbled a Croucher shot. Crouch and Lampard did get some goals back for us, but then a Petric shot from 25 yards that sealed it for Croatia, and that actually was fumbled again by Carson, and that cost McLaren his job ultimately. And so Croatia, their team they had was another good team with the likes of Chorluka, Simic, Modric, Kranjčar, Pranic, Olic, and then, fun fact, Niko Kovic, the Bayern Munich manager, was in there as well. But
no way.
Yeah, it's a fun fact, isn't it? You would have never known that. I was looking at the team, I was thinking, is that the same guy? And it is.
Wow, I did not know that.
So yeah, that's the qualification. England didn't perform when it really mattered, and I remember that summer 2008 being absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Most disinterested I've ever been in a football tournament.
Well, to be fair, honestly, that still is my favourite Euros, just for how excited I was. That was like the first tournament I was proper invested in. I watched the World Cup 2006, but seeing David Villa was always one of my favourite players, top 3 favourite players ever, and he was the star of 2008 World Cup Euros. Sorry.
Yeah, and Torres got that goal in the final, didn't he?
Yes.
It's just England not being in it was something not right for me.
No, it really was. It was odd, considering the teams you had in there, and there was no England. It was all a bit odd.
Should we talk about what went wrong then? Was it the formation? Was it the players not giving enough? Was it?
Well, the player choices, especially for, if we're talking let's just say last 2 games. If we look through the teams for the last 2 games.
Yeah. So, if we look at the lineup versus Russia, we had Robinson in goal, Micah Richards, Ferdinand, Sol Campbell, Jolyon Lescott, Wright Phillips, Gerrard, Barry, Joe Cole, Rooney, and Owen. And then a very similar lineup in the next game with no Rooney, but with Crouch starting and Lampard also starting. So if you look at those lineups, when you look at Owen's playing,
I know that's the main standout. Well, one of the main standouts for me. The other one was Frank Lampard not starting. The other one was Michael Owen, a guy who had, a dream move to Real Madrid. Didn't really do a lot of Real Madrid. And then at this moment in time, he went to Newcastle. Again, he didn't really do much for Newcastle. And really, he was just living off all his youth, I believe. His career from a youngster, absolutely phenomenal. World-class talent from 18 to 24, 25, whatever. And then after his injuries, it seemed to finish him as a player. I really don't think he should have been starting ahead of Jermaine Defoe, Darren Bent, or Peter Crouch alongside Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, I completely agree. The whole of the 2006 or 7 season, he was injured. I think he played maybe 2 times. Then, following season, he got 11 goals in the Premier League for Newcastle. But considering his game as being a goal scorer, he doesn't really offer much apart from that. So
No.
to get 11 goals just as a goal scorer isn't great. It doesn't warrant being in.
Considering what, he was also penalty taker that season, because that was Shearer's last year beforehand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know.
So yeah, I don't think it warrants him being in the team, and I think he was just picked by his name and maybe his experience.
That's it. Without a doubt, it was picked by his name. 100%.
So yeah, that was a very, very poor decision. I think that was a problem for Steve McClaren. He picked players on their names, not by form. That was a real problem. It's probably the same thing with Paul Robinson. He went for him from the start, and then it was only really the last game against Croatia he changed to Scott Carson. When you had at the time David James, people might remember David James in a different light now, but at the time David James was at Portsmouth doing really well. He had a really good spell at Portsmouth, and Robinson was pretty poor at the time for Tottenham. I think 2007-2008 was his last season with Tottenham, and he didn't play that many games because he was poor.
No.
And
that was after they brought that Herrera Gomez in.
Yeah, he wasn't much better at the time either.
No.
But I think that was a big problem for McClaren. It probably didn't help. He was at the 2006 Euros McClaren with Spain, and he probably built relationships with players and carried on picking the same ones. And there was a bit of transition as well from the World Cup, with some players being phased out because of their ages, like the Nevilles. So he didn't just change things up straight away from the beginning of the qualification. He started with Gary Neville, Phil Neville, a few games at the beginning of the qualification, and then suddenly removed Gary Neville, brought in Micah Richards, where he probably should have, at the beginning, once the 2006 World Cup was over, just said, okay, let's have a new start, guys, now. Sort of like Southgate's done for England.
Yeah.
When Gerrard retired, Lampard went, he sort of brought in a new era of young players.
That's it, yeah. You had, at the time, you had Ben Johnson, Micah Richards, both quality, pacey, strong right backs. So I'm absolutely fine with the right back spot, but I'm looking here at the defence and I'm seeing 3 centre backs, meaning that one of them is playing left back. I don't think Sol Campbell or Ferdinand would have gone left back. So that tells me that Julian Lescott was playing left back that game.
Some of the games, it seems, he did play centre back and left back. I think Jamie Carragher plays left back at one point as well.
It's absolutely ridiculous. You've got Julian Lescott, who's 6'4", 6'5".
And during that period, he was at Everton. Julian Lescott, he was absolutely outstanding. He got 8 goals during the 2007-2008 season.
He was world class. He was world class.
He was a goal scorer as well. That was the thing. As a defender, he used to get 6, 7, 8 goals.
Yeah,
season.
Absolute quality aerial threat from corners. Deserved a spot at playing centre back, not left back. He probably should have been, like a stand-in for Ferdinand or Terry. Obviously, Ferdinand and Terry will get in ahead of anyone because it's Rio Ferdinand and John Terry. But Lescott definitely deserved a place in the squad, just not a left back. Left back should be obviously reserved for Ashley Cole. I can't actually remember where Ashley Cole was this game. He must have been injured. He had to have been.
Yeah, I presume so. In the last game, no, he was on the bench in the last game. In fact, which is incredible.
Not too sure where he was then at this time before then.
Yeah, so Wayne Bridge started in the final game against Croatia, and then the previous games as well. If you look at the defence, he seemed to, in 2007, change from Gary Neville to Micah Richards at right back, which is fair enough because Micah Richards was in form, he was doing very well at Man City, was a rising star, but it makes you wonder why he played Gary Neville in the between 2006 and 2007, because he was clearly past it internationally and lacked that bit of pace. It was a time for a new era, and he had quite a few right backs, young right backs coming about in the 2006-2007 season. He had Nicky Shaw at Reading. He was 2006-2007 Reading finished 8th in the table under Steve Coppell. He was absolutely brilliant. You had Luke Young, another good right back at that time. So I don't really know why he didn't go with the in-form right backs.
No, I'm not too sure either.
And Glenn Johnson, like you said, the season before.
Yeah.
And then
Makes no sense.
yeah, and also another thing which may have not been favourable to England at that time in getting the best results was players' commitment for England. I think the press talked a lot at the time about a lot of players pulling out, and that might have also had something to do with the Champions League, because obviously English clubs did so well at the Champions League, so they were pulling out of international duty. So players were chopped and changed throughout the campaign. There was no consistency. I don't know what you think about that.
I do agree with that. I do think there was certainty of whether the players thought, is it really worth it? At the time they weren't playing as a team, and there had to be something going on in that back room, in the dressing room. For all that amount of talent to not be able to play together, whether it was a mixture of egos, club rivalry maybe came across to the national team, which it should never do. It doesn't seem like it does these days, but back then you had the top four, didn't you? You had Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
And out of all them four teams, they made up pretty much starting 11 of the England team.
Yeah, and you had obviously at that time a huge rivalry between Chelsea and United, and
yeah.
most of the England team came from those two clubs, and you had players like Lampard, Carrick, Terry, Ferdinand, all trying to play together. And Terry and Ferdinand, I think Ferdinand's mentioned in the past that club rivalry did get in the way, and that might have. Yeah. People always talk about Gerrard and Lampard not working together, but Terry and Ferdinand weren't a great partnership either, and they were two of the best centre backs in the world at that point.
Oh, easy.
Probably the two best in 2007, 2008.
Yeah, I think John Terry made the team of the year, didn't he? Alongside, I think it was Puyol. Or Cannavaro, it might have been, for 2007.
So that makes you wonder also, because even if you skip defence, there's no real consistency in McLaren's team. Sometimes he even brought in Ledley King, who hardly played because of injury, so another player just brought in his name.
I didn't understand that at all. I'm looking at his team for the 3-2 defeat against Croatia. The unfortunate game, the Wally and the Brolly moment. You got Sol Campbell. He's finally playing Lescott in the back, fair enough. But then you got Ashley Cole on the bench. Ashley Cole at the time, best left back in the world. Bold statement, I know. I certainly think so.
I would agree. Yep.
You're playing Wayne Bridge over Ashley Cole in a game that you have to win. You need this win, and you pick a team like that. You don't play Ashley Cole. You don't play Jermaine Defoe over. You play one up front. Yeah,
one recognised striker, Peter Crouch. When you have Defoe, who was at the time, he just moved to Portsmouth. He's banging the goals in. Had a great record. You also have Darren Bent in there. Didn't play him. I think Rooney might have been injured at the time, but you still need to play at least two at front, or 4-3-3, not 4-5-1, like he did. And it was just a very, very, very odd lineup.
And if you're going to play Peter Crouch, the lone striker, on that bench you have David Beckham, who is at the time, even though he did have his move to LA Galaxy just prior to this. At that time, he is the best crosser of the ball probably in the world still. And you have this 6'7" giant named Peter Crouch up front for us. Why not bring him on and just launch balls into the middle? Why play Sean Wright-Phillips over him?
So that, when you look at that, the front six, so we've got Wright-Phillips, Gerrard, Barry, Lampard, Joe Cole and Crouch. Those five just don't seem to work together for me at all. He seems like he just went with a mix of players he thought would do well at the time.
When you think about it, you've really only got one player with pace in that team. Joe Cole was never really the paciest player. Lampard certainly isn't. Barry definitely wasn't. Gerrard wasn't, and Crouch isn't. So you've only really got one pacey player in that line, in that setup, in Sean Wright-Phillips. It's just not going to work.
You need someone. If you're going to play Crouch, like you said, you need someone to cross the ball in. That's where Beckham should have come in.
Yeah.
He came on at half time, but he should have played from the start.
Or you need someone to play off Crouch with a Jermaine Defoe. That's why that partnership at Portsmouth worked so well, because they played off each other.
Definitely. It just, the whole thing seemed on. It seemed at half time he just went broke and brought on Beckham and Defoe because he knew he made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I think throughout the campaign, I know Gareth Barry was a very good player. Villa had a great team at the time, didn't they, with sort of Ashley Young, Milner, Barry, Richard Dunn, Bonmore up front, John Carew. It's a brilliant team. Shay Given moved there as well, but I don't think he just works in that England team. He doesn't seem, he's a very good player. I think he scored a few goals for Villa at the time. I think he got nine goals 2007, 2008, 7 or 6 goals the previous season, but that is probably because he took penalties. But he wasn't really a player which helped combine the play for others and helped sort of make everything a bit slicker. I think a player who was overlooked at that time completely was Michael Carrick.
Yeah, mate, without a doubt, Michael Carrick. I would have had him in a midfield three with Lampard and Gerrard.
Yeah, definitely, because you see what he did at United. He didn't get much plaudits at that point, but he was playing every single game.
He was very underrated at Man United. Very underrated.
And he was the one that tied and glued everything together. As I was saying before, with Barry, he's a very good player, but he's not that glue which was needed at the time to help Lampard and Gerrard play together. To sit back, Barry just wasn't that kind of player. He was a player who could work in a 4-4-2 in a two midfield. He wasn't a player who could sit behind those two in any way or shape or form and make Gerrard and Lampard work together by sitting behind. Whereas Carrick proved that he could do that at his club side. There was several occasions where he played sort of behind Scholes, Hargreaves, those kind of midfielders.
Yeah.
And we can't consider Scholes in this because he was retired at this point internationally.
Mate, Scholes was never in my mind.
It's not even worth mentioning. He's a very good club player, but for some reason he turned his back a little bit in England, so it's not worth mentioning.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, if we look at the strikers at that point, who was chosen throughout the campaign. So we've gone through. Irwin was chosen quite a bit. Heskey was even chosen. He was not in form at all. He was at Wigan at the point. He only got 4 goals and 3 goals in those sort of 2 seasons, 2006, 2008.
A player of the 90s. No, he was good striker for Liverpool in the 90s. Good striker for Leicester. And he lost it. He lost his legs. He used to have a bit of pace about him, a little bit of pace, power. He still had the power, but there was no use for him in that England setup. No use whatsoever.
And when you think about it as well, between 2006 and 2007, Darren Bent was on the bench a few times for England, but he was completely overlooked. The fact that he was the joint top English goal scorer in the Premier League with Rooney in 2006, 2007 with 14 goals says it all. Yet he hardly played. I think he maybe was on the bench twice in that sort of time period for England, and players like Heskey got in ahead of him. Whereas that just shows that McLaren didn't pick on form. He picked the name.
He just picked his favourites. He just picked his buddies, or his buddy's buddy, if you know what I mean. Whoever was popular in the dressing room.
It was whoever was sort of in the top 14 was doing okay. That's who he picked at points, or who had a good reputation generally, like Heskey.
That's it. Yeah, he had a good reputation.
And you also, because you had a lot of young players at that point coming through, wingers, who would have been really suited to this team, especially that last game where he said we needed someone to cross the ball in. It's probably ridiculed now, but at the time, David Bentley was being compared to Beckham as the next Beckham. Racking up
another one, David Bentley. I actually put him in my final. I haven't got him in the starting 11, but I got him in the squad, 100%.
Downing as well. Downing played a few times for England that time period, but he was really informed. 2007, 2008, he got 9 goals.
Yeah.
For Middlesbrough. Is a legend at Middlesbrough because of his time period there, rather than his latter sort of most recent spell at Middlesbrough. But it just shows players were there in form. He just weren't picked. And
they were there for the taking, mate. They were there for the taking, but he never even really considered them because he had his favourites.
And I think when you see the chopping and changing, some of it wasn't his fault because players pulled out, but that's also to do with that club rivalry being there, and it's McLaren's fault ultimately because he didn't instill a culture where everyone was friends. Everyone sort of, as soon as they got on international duty, they turned their head on their clubs. They needed to turn their head on the club size and turn on to the international scene where they all the same country, all the same team. Like Spain did that famous between 2008 to 2012, where the club sides, Real Madrid and Barcelona, have a huge rivalry, hate each other. There is a distinct hate there. They get red cards almost every game in Spanish flags, but as soon as they go on international duty, it's a complete different ball game. They're all friends. They all play together
so well. They link together so well.
And I think that's been Southgate's probably biggest success in sort of instilling this culture with the current team. It's probably helped by a lot of the players came through youth developments, with England youth teams together. But Southgate has instilled a culture. Everyone's sort of friends in that England camp, no matter the sort of club size, club rivalries. It's more of just banter between players rather than rivalry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it, man.
And it didn't help with the media at the time. I think the media had something to do with it because the media kept on saying Lampard, Gerrard can't play together. That's not helping, is it?
No, that's sort of creating a little divide between the public and probably even between the dressing room. You know, the players they'll read the paper. They'll see what's being written about them. You know, you had at the time also constantly slagging our players off.
The media were awful at the time, and there was, I think, probably more than any other era, England players were the front of all the newspapers.
Yeah.
And you had that big wag culture at that point, whereas now it's sort of a little bit less so.
It's sort of died down a bit now, yeah.
But yeah, at that point, footballers, especially the footballers we had, because of the wags, were front of the page all the time.
At the time you had the two most popular ones. You had Colleen Rooney and Victoria Beckham. Everyone always wanted to know what they were getting up to. Well, I say everyone. I didn't care what they were getting up to. I wanted to know about the football.
Yeah, I did follow it a bit. To be fair, I remember looking at the Daily Mirror, opening up, seeing Victoria Beckham, wondering what she was doing that day. What was she wearing? No, I didn't go that far.
I bet you was wondering what she was wearing.
I didn't go that far. But yeah, so we've discussed a few reasons there. I think it might be worth actually going through a team we would have picked if we were in charge between 2006 to 2008, and it's not the team with the best players. I think we should pick the team which could have got us into that Euros, could have gelled together, and could have ultimately gone far in that tournament. So
yeah, like a mixture. Yeah, okay.
So picking a team, looking at sort of the Euro 2006, 2008, what players would have been best in that period? What do you think?
So I'm going. Are we going for a full team? Are we going for like goalkeeper, right back, left back, and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Are we going...
I think we should go for a full team. We'll start off with, let's go to the back five, so the goalkeeper and the back four, and then we can work out the formation from there to try and fit in the right players.
Okay. Goalkeeper, I'm going David James.
I completely agree. I think Paul Robinson was trusted a lot of that point. After the World Cup, he sort of kept his place, but made a huge mistake against Croatia, where he completely missed the ball when Gary Neville passed it back to him. He didn't really play great for Tottenham in that period either, where you had David James, who was playing almost every game for Portsmouth, won the FA Cup with Portsmouth, and a lot of people forget how good David James was in that period. That was a great period in his career where he was consistent. Yeah.
A bit of a revival for David James.
It's also worth pointing out Scott Carson, who had a good loan spell at Charlton 2006, 2007, and then Villa 2007, 2008. Like you said before, great Villa side, and then Martin O'Neill. And he was on loan from Liverpool at that point. He was doing very good. Also Rob Green, I had a dislike for him because he played for Norwich, my football team's big rivals, but he was very good at West Ham.
Chelsea legend.
Of course, he won the Europa League there, didn't he?
That's it.
And then you have Ben Foster as well, is also worth mentioning. Although during those 2 years he was on the bench quite a bit for United. I think it was 2005, 2006. He had a really good loan to at Watford. And I feel like if he probably wasn't on the bench at United and tried to go somewhere else, he might have actually had a good shout of playing for England.
Perfect fit for Tottenham at the time.
So I think we should go with David James. Yep,
David James. I'm happy with that.
And it's a weird one, that, because James was the starting goalkeeper in 2004 ahead of Paul Robinson. Then Robinson sort of took over from him, and then James came back into it 2010 with Rob Green. Obviously, Rob Green. Remember before?
Rob Green and Rob Green obviously costing us. There's something about goalkeepers and.
He said Pickford was outstanding in the last tournament. Yet he's ridiculed quite a bit in the media at the moment.
Always something to do with our goalkeepers. Always.
I think that the last tournament was probably the first tournament in my lifetime I've seen a goalkeeper have great performances for England in the World Cup or any tournament.
That's it. Same here.
Because Joe Hart was poor in the tournament he was in. He took his anger out in the game. He just couldn't control his emotions. Paul Robinson wasn't great. Rob Green, David James, they didn't have the best performances either.
David Seaman, locked by Ronaldinho.
David Seaman, end of his career, so it was quite unlucky at that point. Amazing goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
It was just
amazing goalkeeper. But like I said, England, we haven't really had the best sort of luck with keepers.
So moving on to the defence, let's start with a right back. So Gary Neville sort of started the campaign at right back, 2006. Then 2007, Michael Richards sort of took over from Gary Neville in that place. Once Gary Neville was found out a little bit in some of the games, like against Croatia, he
really lost his legs.
Great defender as well. Like Seaman, absolutely amazing player, but by that sort of time, he was probably at the end of his career and probably needed someone to put their arm around him and say, maybe it's best if we let the next generation take over, like Southgate's done with a lot of the previous generation. So I actually quite liked Michael Richards at the time, 2007,
Yeah,
2008.
Michael Richards, I thought Michael Richards really had it all. I thought he was great at defending. I even thought he had a great attacking threat. A really pacey player, very powerful. He come through at such a young age at Man City, and to think he went off the radar when they won the first Premier League title. He went off the radar. I don't know exactly what happened to him. I know that he got into the team of the season that year.
I think Zabaleta coming in at Man City didn't help because obviously he took his place, and I think he had a few injury niggles. It probably didn't. But when he actually came through at Man City, he was a Who star. He got the Premier League Player of the Month in 2007, 2008. I think in August. So one of his first months of playing football week in, week out.
At the time, he was 20 years old.
Yeah, because I remember I went to New Wembley to, I think it was only the second or third game after it opened, to watch England v Germany. I think we lost 2-1, but Michael Richards started at right back. It was only a friendly, and he absolutely dominated the whole game. I think he provided the assist for Lampard's goal in that game. He was outstanding. I remember watching it. I must have been 11, 12 years old, and he was absolutely outstanding. He took my eye in that game.
So yeah, I'm 100% going for Michael Richards in that right back role.
We've also got to consider sort of an outside shout, Wes Brown. He played right back quite a bit during that period as a utility man for Man United. He started the Champions League final in 2008 as the right back. He's one of those 10 English players who played at right back. Also, outside shouts, Nicky Shorey at Reading. Reading had an outstanding period between 2006 2008. When I say outstanding, it was only 2006-07 where they finished 8th in the Steve Coppell. The next season they got relegated, so I'm not sure why.
Still outstanding for a club like Reading.
Yeah, and I think he moved to Villa the following season after they got relegated. And then another player, he didn't get enough attention, but he's quite underrated during his sort of Premier League career, was Luke Young. Very consistent. He was at Middlesbrough. His solidarity season at Middlesbrough in 2007, 2008. He was very good for them. Middlesbrough had quite a solid team at that point as well, with Downing, Luke Young, several different players. So what do you think, Michael Richards?
I'd say Michael Richards, yeah.
And also one player we didn't mention, Glenn Johnson.
Cracking player. Absolutely cracking player.
I think, was it that season where the ball, I remember one goal is coming to my head right now, the ball came up in the air, he took it on his chest.
That was just after.
Was running against the goal.
Another one you remember, that was against Hull.
It was a beautiful goal.
What a thunder strike that was.
With his left foot as well.
Incredible player, mate.
Outstanding. So if we go Michael Richards at right back, I think that's going to be the hardest slot for the defence to pick. I think the others are pretty self-explanatory.
The others are pretty self-explanatory, really. When you look at the options that we have, centre back, John Terry, captain fantastic. For me, best ever. Premier centre back, best ever. Best that I know, best ever England centre back for what he done for the country.
I wouldn't say best ever England centre back when you have Bobby Moore.
From what I know, I didn't. Really
from what you've watched, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. From what I know.
From our era, let's say from our.
Yeah, from our era, yeah, 100%.
From our era.
Obviously, you got Bobby Moore. No respect for Bobby Moore whatsoever.
Tony Adams as well. Some great English centre back.
Tony Adams.
Also, the extra centre back, Terry Butcher. What a player he was.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get Ipswich in some shape or form. But he was a great player. Obviously famous for his blood bandage around his head.
Yeah.
Great centre back. So going back, so we've got John Terry, I think, definitely in there. We've obviously got Rio Ferdinand, but before we come on back to Rio, there's some other shouts in there. Jolyon Lescott was an outstanding player at that point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Should be worth of a shout. It's Jolyon Lescott.
He was a goal-scoring defender at that point, which was absolutely crazy. He got 8 goals in the 2007-2008 season. They were quite good goals, if I remember right, some of them. And I think the previous season he got a few goals as well. He created his own sort of position not a position, but this aura where he got quite a few goals. And he was a very solid centre-back. And
yeah,
I didn't shut my eyelid when Man City shelled out 31 million for him. I think the following season or the season after that, because he was one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League. And
that's what I mean. He was worth it. Because Man City, they spent so long trying to get John Terry, and they thought, well, okay, what's the next best thing? Jolyon Lescott.
So he great defender at the time. Then also another player who's ridiculed a little bit, but at that point he was extremely good, and that's Jonathan Woodgate. In 2006, 2007,
when he was playing for Spurs, he was quite good.
Yeah.
He was all right.
Well, in fact, in 2006, 2007, that was the season he rejuvenated his career following a bad spell at Madrid. He got 30 appearances for Middlesbrough. Then the year after, into January, he went to Spurs, and they obviously won the League Cup that year. And he had a really good spell at that point.
He scored the goal that won the League Cup.
And then you have Sol Campbell, who, although he was playing for Portsmouth at the time, was still an outstanding defender. What inspired him to win the FA Cup. And actually, in fact, after 2006, when he left Arsenal, he had plenty of offers to go to different places. I think he had an offer from Juventus, but he chose to go to Portsmouth because of the project, and it's left his name there with the FA Cup.
Yeah, they're all good shouts. At the end of the day, it all comes down to Tudor, doesn't it? It all still comes back to John Terry and Rio Ferdinand.
There are 2 world-class talents, and Rio Ferdinand obviously took his club side with Vidic to the Champions League final, and they were absolutely solid at back. Ferdinand and Vidic. The right backs and left backs changed in that time for United, but it was Ferdinand and Vidic which were the consistency at the back and kept everything solid, and that obviously led to United winning the Champions League and the Premier League that season.
Formidable.
So those 2, I think, definitely in there.
Yep.
Left back, I'll let you do the talking.
Left back, this is probably the easiest pick of the bunch. Left back is clearly Wayne Bridge. No, I'm just kidding. Left back has got to be Ashley Cole. 100%. There is no other choice. Wayne Bridge does not even get it.
Very good left back though, Wayne Bridge during his time.
Yeah, good left back. But Ashley Cole, no left back really ever come close to him for England. I think Ashley Cole was probably a sure bet that he's going to get into this team.
I think he's very underrated left back, I think, overall, because people had a negative perception of him off the field, which was fair enough because he did a lot of things wrong, but on the field he was the best left back in the world for a time period in those late 2000s.
Yeah, best left back in the world, without a doubt.
And at that point he was probably the best left back in the world, so between 2006 2008, I think he should be in there. And you look at that defence, 3 out of the 4 were probably, well, you can make a case easily for them being the best in their positions in the world.
Yeah.
Which is a tragedy that we didn't make the Euros again.
Exactly, a tragedy that we conceded the goals that we conceded.
Because there's a few games, obviously last game we conceded 3 goals, and obviously Terry or Ferdinand weren't playing in that game, but it is a tragedy, and there's other games, let's move on, otherwise we could be talking about this for a long while. So that's our defence sorted. So we got, our back 5 is David James in goal, and at left back we have Ashley Cole, centre backs Rio Ferdinand and John Terry, and right back the rising star in Michael Richards. Also, that has a nice mix of youth and experience, and I think the key to making that work would be, like we said before, instilling the culture of putting club rivalry on the shelf aside and getting on with international football.
Yeah, that's what needs to be done.
And I think what you would have probably done, what I would have favoured in that time, but looking at what Southgate's done now, is taking taking out the likes of Gary Neville, Phil Neville, Ledley King, even Sol Campbell maybe, and trying to introduce those younger talents to get that mix. So not having Gary Neville on the bench, having someone like Glenn Johnson on the bench instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our defence sort of. Moving on to the midfield, I think this is going to be a bit tricky, and I think before we go into the midfield, maybe we should try and get a formation.
So, formation that I conjured up in my draft, I went for a 4-3-1-2.
Okay.
Rather than playing wingers. I went for a 4-3-1-2. I don't know how you feel about that.
I was thinking a 4-2-3-1. So there's probably similar dynamics in what we're thinking, trying to get certain players to work together. So I think we should just go for it and then work it out as we talk through the players.
Yeah.
So if we look for the midfielders, starting off, Gareth Barry, as we talked before, he was in there quite a bit in that England team during that period. I think McLaren obviously liked him quite a bit. And he was part of the great Villa side. He got 8 goals, 2006, 2007, 9 goals the following year. But he took penalties, so that's probably swayed it quite a bit. But like we were talking before, he wasn't that player who really glues the team together, glues the midfield together. And I think a player I would have picked ahead of him, who played hardly ever for England in that period, but started for Man United in the Champions League final, the biggest club competition there is out there, was Michael Carrick. An absolute rock in United
100% agree.
midfield. And I think he needed to be in there in a sitting role in that midfield.
Yeah, that's exactly what I put him as well.
So I think we agreed on that straight away.
Yeah, that's 100%, mate, 100%. Probably the next two as well, I think we're going to agree on. I'll say the first, Frank Lampard.
Of course. Goal scoring machine.
Absolute monster of a midfielder. The best the Premier League's ever seen.
In terms of goal scoring?
In his role. He's, 4th top goal scorer in the Premier League, scored a lot of goals for England. A fantastic penalty taker, fantastic free kick taker, fantastic pass on the ball, long shots, corners. He can do it all. I feel like he's a must in the England team.
I think he's definitely got to be in there. And I think whilst we're talking through this, I think we should just say the players who should be in there and then work out how to get them in and how to make it work after. So we've identified the players, then try and make it work. So Lampard, yeah, definitely. We haven't seen a goal scoring midfielder since him with that consistency in the Premier League. Maybe we won't ever see a goal scoring midfielder like him. I
don't think we will.
There was a crazy stat. I think it was over 10 years, every single season, he got over 10 goals in the Premier League.
Which is, mate, it's fucking mental. He got like 37 goal contributions in the 2009-2010 season. It's only crazy. 38 games in the season, and he got 36 contributions.
And then if you look at, even in that period as well, 2006-2007, he got 21 goals in all competitions. So year in, year out, he got those goals. He's very, very attack-minded and was a goal-scoring midfielder. I think we've also got to mention, I don't think he'll get in there because of his injury record, but a great player, Owen Hargreaves. So he started the Champions League final, but great player, had a great early career at Bayern Munich, and actually in that 2006 World Cup, he scored one of the penalties, so he can hang his head up with doing that. But his injury record was against him, and so he was plagued by injuries.
Yeah, his injuries let him down, without a doubt. But a good player nonetheless.
And then there were other players in that period in those sort of central midfield CDM roles, such as like Scott Parker, who's just coming through. He's at Newcastle 2006-2007, West Ham the following year. Very, very good player. He didn't get enough attention until the end of his career, probably, when he was at West Ham. And he did make the PFA Team of the Year during that sort of end period. I think it was only Euro 2012 where he really got to play for England. He's probably wasn't in his best. He was a very good player at that point. He probably was sort of second coming, but his first coming, he didn't get any recognition for England. Other players like coming through were Jermaine Genius. Very good talent at that point.
Yeah, Jermaine Genius. You could have a little shout for Tom Huddleston if you're going for Jermaine Genius.
Tom Huddleston, he's a player which I don't think people give enough credit for his passing and the way he strikes the ball. It's effortless, and he scored some absolute incredible goals in his initial spell at Spurs.
He was always a long shot taker. I like that at Huddleston.
I thought he was going to go into great things after looking. He had everything in this game. He had the passing, he had the shooting. He just didn't. It just didn't click for him in the end.
No. how many caps has Tom Hudson even got for England?
It must have been 3 or 4. I can't remember many.
I'll look for that. Have a little discussion. What sort of 4 caps?
4 caps, yeah. So likely 4
caps.
But he was one of those players who sort of played a lot during, if I remember right, during the sort of England under 21, England under 20, England 19. He came through the England setup and played a lot. I think it's only James Milner maybe who's got more under 21 caps than him, which is another player.
33 under 21 caps.
Which shows that he was a very good pedigree when he was younger.
With that, I didn't realise how young. I thought he was a bit older than that. He's still only 33 years old.
And it shows what a talent he was when he was younger, because it seems so long ago when he was at Spurs, but it really wasn't.
No.
And so if we're talking about that, so we've got Carrick, we've got Lampard, and obviously we're going to have Gerrard, another one of those players who are probably the best in their position in the world at that point.
You got to.
He's another player who scored quite a bit of goals for Liverpool. He got in 2007, 2008, got 11 goals in the league, 21 in all competitions. So he scored quite a few goals, but he wasn't as consistent with his goal scoring as Lampard. Probably also because he was at Liverpool, played in several different positions across the midfield, sort of left mid, right mid, CDM, and they were different players. And I think if you have Carrick in there, maybe the CDM role or playing alongside one of them, I think they would have glued together a little bit more, because Carrick would have been that middle point where they could pass into. He would sit back. It wouldn't. A lot of the time, the problem with Gerrard and Lampard was who's going to sit back, who's going to go forward. And if you have Carrick in there, they don't need to think about that. He's fine with sitting back. So that's probably another thing with Aaron Hargreaves. Another great player, but he likes to get forward a little bit as well. Whereas you have Carrick, who's fine with sitting back. The whole of his career he's done that. He's done absolutely amazing, almost in that Xavi role.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I think Carrick's got in there, and if I was going to try and make a way of Lampard, Gerrard, Carrick working together, I would have Carrick and Gerrard playing next to each other, because a lot of the time Gerrard at Liverpool played in 4-4-2s and was suited to having 2 midfields. Sort of Lampard.
I quite like where this is going.
So Carrick and Gerrard playing next to each other in a 2, and then I'm thinking of 3 players ahead of Lem and then 1 striker. So the 3 players ahead of Lem, to get the most out of Lampard and his goal scoring abilities, I think Lampard should go into cam role.
Yeah, without
I'm not sure about you.
I'm glad. No, 100% agree. That's where he sort of shone for Chelsea as well. Playing when Chelsea brought in the 4-2-3-1 formation, he was perfect there, just behind Drogba. And
you're keeping a nice balance in having those 2 with Gerrard and Carrick. And I think Gerrard would be suited to playing next to Carrick, because he's played with central midfielders next to him in a 2 before. He did it with Xabi Alonso for years and years and years. Did it with Mascherano. So he's very used to playing sort of defensive midfielders next to him, who can pass the ball in a very good way, like Xabi Alonso did. So
I like that.
I think as part of that formation with Lampard as a cam, you've got to have 2 people next to Lampard, 2 wingers possibly. So at that time we had several different wingers. We had Sean Wright-Phillips at Chelsea, probably didn't get the most out of him in that period because they have so many great players. He didn't get enough appearances to redevelop.
He didn't really get the game time that he should have done. But at the time, you had sort of you had Joe Cole,
Damien Duff.
Who's going to be my pick for going on that right hand slot is Joe Cole.
I think that's a very, very good shout. But again, if we're looking at the 2006-2008 period, I guess if we're saying everyone's fit, then it's absolutely fine. But Joe Cole, I think 2006-2007 was largely injured, but then he made a great comeback the following year. Got 7 goals, and helped inspire Chelsea to that Champions League final. Was outstanding.
Yep.
So I think he's a very, very good pick. We'll have to consider for one of those slots. Another player who was very young at the time, but very talented as part of that Tottenham team. What Huddleston was in, what Genius was in, is Aaron Lennon. He got quite a few assists, didn't get many goals, but he was very speedy, and I think for this team we need a bit of pace.
Yeah, good shout. That's a very good shout.
If he's not going to get in this team, I would have him on the bench, because I think pace separates a lot of teams, and with players like Lampard, who is very good at getting in the box at the right time, you need someone to deliver those crosses. And bringing on Lennon possibly late on, like Spain sort of uses Jesus Navas, that might have been a good option.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. Another one, he probably 2006, 2007, 2008, definitely 2007. Yeah, 2006 might be a bit early, but one that probably under the radar a little bit just because of where he was playing. Ashley Young.
Definitely.
Ashley Young, I thought, was a fantastic talent at Watford. Absolutely unreal talent at Aston Villa when he moved. He really sort of started to shine at Villa. Never really done it the same what he done for Villa as at United.
I think the first year he did, didn't he? The first year where I remember he scored a couple of goals against Arsenal. Beautiful goals, and he curled one in the top right corner.
So I feel like Ashley Young's though shout. I feel like he was a player who did have it all. Martin O'Neill, I remember saying he could be as good as Messi.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he also did have a lot of talent at that time, and it amazes me that Steve McClaren ignored a young and upcoming player like Ashley Young in 2007-2008 period, or season. I don't know why I say period there, not American. He got 9 goals for Aston Villa as a very young player, maybe 21, 22.
Yeah.
And he wasn't recognised by McClaren, wasn't included in that squad. Whereas nowadays, if a player does well in the season, maybe even half season, does really well for a club side, Southgate is open to including him. He's done it with Dele Alli.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hudson Odoi.
He's done it with Sancho when he sort of was rising. He's done it with Tammy Abraham. He's done it with several different players. Even Hodgson did it with Dele Alli. But McClaren didn't seem to like bringing those young players who had talent in. And they straight away he liked to go with the established players, which is probably where he went wrong. Another player following that trend was David Bentley. Great form in that 2006-2008 sort of period, especially 2007-2008. People were comparing him, the media were comparing him all the time to David Beckham because he had this crossing ability where he could whip it in almost like Beckham. Not as good, obviously, but he was still.
You can't bend it like Beckham.
Still outstanding.
Very close.
He got 8 assists in that season for another good club side at that point in Blackburn, who were very good. Had like Roque Santa Cruz and those kind of players, and he's compared to David Beckham regularly. He also chipped in with a few goals. He got 6 goals in that 2007-2008 season. He's another player I'd probably have on the bench with Ashley Young.
I really liked David. I thought he was a cracking player.
And actually two final players who were. Well, one was ignored by McClaren, one wasn't ignored by McClaren. So another player who follows the trend of McClaren ignoring up and coming youth talent is James Milner. He was at Newcastle 2006-2007, then went to Aston Villa the following season.
Yep.
Very good young player, playing as a winger. He had pace at that point, so as well as crossing ability like he has now, he had quite good pace, so he was another good winger ignored. And then Stuart Downing was actually appreciated by McClaren. He played quite a few games. And I think he was an outstanding player in 2007-2008 with 9 goals. And the following seasons he went to Aston Villa, formed part of a good really front three with Gabriel Bonhor and Ashley Young. Yeah. But I don't think those players will probably get in the starting lineup, but they're probably worth a shout.
They're definitely worth a shout, 100%.
And I think one player we haven't even talked about, well, we've mentioned but we haven't talked about him in isolation, is David Beckham.
Yeah, that's who I was going to come on to next, actually. I feel like David Beckham at the time, just secured, he was like the first player really to secure a big money move to America. And he still had it in him. He still could play. He still could play.
I'll tell you what shows in that period that he was still at a good stage in his career. Because although he stepped down as captaincy, a very, very good decision. Because he knew at that point it was time for someone younger to take on the crown. He probably didn't imagine John Terry taking it over at that point. He probably thought maybe Lampard or Gerrard would take it on.
Yeah.
But he knew that's probably what other older players should have done at that time. Should have maybe stepped down from their place in the team, not as Beckham's captaincy, but he should have had that understanding of stepping down to let the next generation take on. But I think it's coming back to the point where I was saying what makes him stand out that he still had it almost at that point was his 2006-2007 was his last season at Real Madrid. I think in January his move got announced to the MLS, and Fabio Capello was having none of it. He said, "Okay, you're not playing. You're not up to the standard." And Beckham, like Beckham does, he worked hard at training, sort of one round Capello, got back in his lineup and was a key part of Real Madrid winning the La Liga that year. A wonderful free kick against Real Sociedad comes to mind, which was crucial to Madrid winning that game. And it's quite funny actually because at the end of that season, although his deal was done with LA Galaxy, he did so well for Real Madrid that Real Madrid actually tried to untie his deal with Galaxy at the end of 2007, 2000 sort of, or 2006, 2007 season. So that shows that he was still a world-class talent.
I did not know that.
Yes, it is quite incredible. That shows the turnaround of Fabio Capello from not wanting him in his team at all to then wanting to almost untie his deal with LA Galaxy. And then obviously they became quite good friends when Fabio Capello became England manager. He was going to the 2010 World Cup, then got injured and was there by Capello's side with his crutches on the sidelines.
Yeah.
But I think he's got to be in there because of his crossing ability, his experience. And then personally, you said Joe Cole on the right-hand side. It depends who we're going to... Because if we're going 3 in the sort of 1-6 cam and then 2 wingers, we only have one place up front. So it depends if we're putting what kind of striker we want up front. But I'm going to go for the right mid spot, which might be surprising because you may be thinking I'm going to put this guy at the top, is Wayne Rooney, because at the time for United he was playing right mid and left mid. In those sort of 3 seasons between 2006 2009, when Tevez was there, when Ronaldo was there, Rooney wasn't playing in that striker position. He was playing on the right or the left, often the right. And I think for England, if he played in that position as well, England might have got the best out of him because that's what he was playing for United. He was setting up Ronaldo all the time. I think in that Champions League final, if you watch a few of his crosses, they're outstanding. Where he set up Ronaldo and set up Tevez, could have scored at least 2 goals in that game from great Rooney balls.
I quite like that shout.
And that's playing a player who's at that point it was probably, although he was a very good player up front, obviously late in his career he scored tons of goals playing in his preferred position. When he was,
and a little bit of pace for him as well, so he would work all right.
At that point, that was his best position at that point, I think.
Okay, I'm willing to do that. I still want to get Joe Cole in the team somehow, because although Rooney, creative player, there's no skill in the setups yet. And Joe Cole for me, he had a bit of flair about him. Is what I mean. There's no flair in the side at the minute. I feel like Joe Cole really one of the skillfulest players I ever seen play. Master of step overs, absolute master. He was unbelievable with the ball at his feet. So I feel like Joe Cole deserves a spot.
I think if we're going to take that player for Joe Cole, it'd be very, very harshly because he was an outstanding talent. As I just talked before, just built him up like right to the highest enders of the Empire State Building. But David Beckham, outstanding talent, but maybe I was talking about the season he went to sort of LA Galaxy 2006, 2007. So if we look at the 2006, 2008 sort of period, maybe between 2007 and 2008, that's when he was in America, and maybe his quality wasn't as good, and maybe he wouldn't have been suited to playing for England at that point. Because obviously, outstanding talent, but the intensity is different between America, MLS, and Europe. And if you want to say if this team was playing at the Euros, if you want the player who had the intensity, although coming back to that point again, if England got to the Euros, it would have been likely David Beckham probably would have taken a loan move to AC Milan or something like that to get his fitness back up, like he did several times. So I think if you're going to take a player out, you can't. I think Rooney at the time, because he was playing for Man United in the Champions League final, winning the Champions League final was a key part of that. Yeah. Outstanding, one of the best players in the world at that point. I think you've got to have him.
Was going to get in there, whether it be striker or so. What are we going to do? We've got Lampard, Rooney. Who's that final midfield position going to go to?
It's either Beckham or Joe Cole. I think we should put Beckham/Joe Cole because I don't think we can really choose one.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll go Beckham/Joe Cole.
Yeah, and then that's our 3 in that in between role between Carrick and Gerrard and that striker. So we got Carrick, Gerrard sitting as a back 2. Gerrard obviously has a license to go forward a little bit more because Carrick's sitting there. Then we have Rooney, Lampard and Beckham.
Perfect. So like a perfect midfield, that is.
So that is a midfield I think which could glue together and work well, because Rooney and Beckham or Rooney and Joe Cole would be able to get back and forth up and down the wing to help out the left and right backs. You could have Ashley Cole and Michael Richards overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those two players would work well. And then that may think about it now, coming back to that point with Ashley Cole and Michael Richards overlapping. That although we did put Beckham/Joe Cole, there is a connection there at Chelsea with Joe Cole and Ashley Cole. And if we're doing an overlap with Joe Cole and Ashley Cole, that's probably better suited to Joe Cole. But I still think we should go for that slash because it would be very harsh on Bex.
Yeah. Okay. For striker, this is going to be where it's tough. I feel like because we have in my opinion, three options. We've got Peter Crouch, great record scorer for England.
Yep.
Jermaine Defoe, another, he's got a great record for England again. And Darren Bent, who really never got a chance for England.
Not at all. Well, I think he would have been starting at that 2008 Euros. Or actually, if things worked out better for him at Tottenham, he would have probably been England's starting striker. But it just didn't work out at Tottenham. And I think the time frame for England should have been the 2010 World Cup because he was outstanding that year for Sunderland, absolutely outstanding. But he didn't get a look at him at all under Capello.
24 goals he got for Sunderland that year.
And yet he was by far the highest English goal scorer. By far, yet didn't get a look in Capello's team. He didn't even go to the World Cup.
No, he went by far. The other one was Rooney.
It was Rooney, okay. But it's still 24 goals in a normal season.
24 goals, Rooney got like 26, and Drogba, it was Drogba at the time, he had like 31.
I think I was thinking the following season. But yeah, still 24 goals. If you look at any other season, that is outstanding.
Yeah.
It's only really Kane as a striker who's taken it on consistently at those levels as an English striker. But you've also got to consider there's a few outside shouts as well. I think it's worth mentioning, but probably won't get in there. So Owen played quite a bit in that period, and 2007, 2008 got 11 goals, which on the face of it is okay for a player of normal talent, but he was an outstanding player in his youth, as you talked about before, and to get 11 goals as a player whose your main attribute is goal scoring, because that's what he was. He was not like a Rooney or a Crouch, or even maybe less Defoe, but Rooney or Crouch, who offered a lot to the team with their hold-up play, the overall play for their team. He was just a goal-scoring player, and 11 goals probably doesn't warrant the position for England at that time. And he probably, as we talked about before, got in because of his name. Also have, well, he was in form 2006-2007 season, is Andrew Johnson at Everton.
Yeah, Andrew Johnson.
But then he tailed off. It was only one sort of season, 2006-2007, 11 goals, which doesn't sound a lot at the time, but there wasn't many good English strikers, goal-getting English strikers, because obviously Rooney and Darren Bent, they got 14 goals that year, top English goal scorers. Then you had Andrew Johnson, the next English goal scorer. But yeah, 2007, 2008, tailed off a little bit.
Another one who I've just thought of, very unlucky player in his time, had a lot of talent. Dean Ashton.
What a player he could have been.
Yeah, what a player. He had so much potential, so much talent, and just injuries completely fucked him.
It was at Norwich. I hate to say it again because obviously club rivalry with Ipswich, but at Norwich he was outstanding for a couple of years, and we're looking at it, and before that through in the Championship. But it was just when he went to West Ham, things didn't work out. He just got injured. I think he had one season maybe where I think 2007, 2008 was the 1 year where he did manage to get a few appearances, over 30 appearances. That was the only time in about 7 years where he got over 30 appearances in the league, and he was a very good player. But I think injuries go against him in him being considered.
Oh, without a doubt, it was just one English striker. He had all the talent, but
another one cup wonder as well. Got one appearance, but unlike Devin Nugent, no goals. So I think it's between those three players. So you have Crouch, you have Defoe, and you have Bent. I think Crouch offers a little bit more in terms of his overall play, but Defoe in that period was an absolute goal getter. He didn't play too many games.
I'm leaning towards
in those years, but his record when he was fit in 2006-2007, he got 10 goals. He got 12 goals the following year, 2007-2008, and in that year he had a bit of transition because he transferred from Portsmouth to Spurs. And he was actually the top English goal scorer in 2007, 2008. And while we were talking before about Darren Bent getting 24 goals in any other year, probably being the highest goal scorer, well, for an English player, this stat shows that in that 2007, 2008 season, Jermaine Defoe was the top English goal scorer with 12 goals. I think Rooney was joint with him, but that's quite a low total for an English striker.
I'm leaning towards Jermaine Defoe for it. I know that Crouch maybe would be better off actually with the player that we've chosen.
That's what I'm thinking, how it will work with this player.
Hold up play, you know, the ball's in.
All the crossing. When you have
all the crosses, yeah.
When you
then again, you have Wayne Rooney. He can head a ball. Lampard can head a ball. I was thinking more of the over-the-top balls that, you know, Carrick could play, Lampard could play, and, you know, I don't think Crouch would ever run onto them.
I guess you need to stretch the lines, don't you? I guess we need a bit of pace in the team at the top, and Defoe provides that pace. Because obviously Lampard, we've given Lampard a license to get in the box with Gerrard and Carrick sitting back at the ball. So
yeah,
the crosses can go to Lampard, and he can use his aerial ability, and Defoe could be going behind the back at that point. And yeah, as I said before, he didn't have the best injury record, because he did get injured a little bit, but there was no real serious injuries there. There was a lot of niggles. So, and his game was about pace at that point. And he was outstanding. If you look at his stats in that 2007-2008 season when he transferred to Portsmouth. Oh, sorry, when I was talking before, I got mixed up between his spells.
I think you did say you were
Spurs.
transferred to Spurs.
Yeah, so he was actually the other way around. He was actually the other way around.
After he went back to Spurs.
Yeah, so it was actually the other way around, incredibly. It was in 2007-2008. It's halfway through the season, he went from Spurs to Portsmouth, then he obviously went back to Tottenham. That's why I was getting confused.
Yeah.
He had 2 spells at Tottenham. So, in 2007-2008, this shows how on fire he was. As soon as he went to Spurs, Pompey, got it wrong again. As soon as he went to Pompey, 12 appearances, 8 goals. Absolute fire.
Goal machine, mate. Born goal scorer.
And I think if you're picking a player purely on form, it's got to be
Jermaine Defoe.
I think if you look at the previous season, I would lean towards Darren Bent because of his total at Charlton. But if we're looking at a player, although we're looking at 2006, 2008, well, ultimately it's looking at the team which would have gone into that Euros. And I think Defoe was in form at that point, and I would have picked him.
I agree.
So I think that's our team.
Is that a team done?
Should I run through it?
Have a little run through.
So in goal we've got DJ, David James. Right back we've got the up and coming, very strong, very energetic Michael Richards. Centre backs we've got 2 players who were the best in their position in the world at the point in Ferdinand and Terry, but we need to emphasise to make that work. They've got to put club rivalries aside. So making that work, there's a lot of emphasis on the management. Left back, best left back in the world, Ashley Cole. Then to try and make this midfield dynamic work, we've gone 2 sitting with Carrick and Gerrard, but Gerrard with more of a licence to go forward. And then we have 3 in front of them, with Lampard in the cam role, Beckham or Joe Cole on the left. We couldn't decide between either of them. It would be unfair to decide. It was just whoever was edging at the time, whoever was more fit, whoever was better on the day, let's say. And then we've got Rooney on the right. And then up front, a player who would provide the pace, get behind the line, and was in form in Jermaine Defoe.
That sounds like a European Championship winning squad.
It's a team, and we've got on the bench, what we've been talking about is young and hungry players who would come on, like the likes of Ashley Young, David Bentley,
Tom Huddleston,
those kind of players, Darren Bent, those kind of players who wouldn't have got the team at that point, wouldn't have been on the bench because Dean McLaren wasn't appealed to those kind of players. He would have put in the likes of one of the Nevilles, Sol Campbell, Emil Heskey, someone like that, whereas we need the young and hungry player to come on and make a difference. And
be a star, get the headline.
When you look for history, it's usually young and hungry players who come on and make that difference. Like you have at that 2014 World Cup, that just sprung to my Mario Götze. He made that difference. Young and hungry. So that's our team.
Perfect. What a team.